Hello everyone, this is John Jenkins. Uh, I wanted to make a video. I'm way behind on videos. I got so many video ideas, but I just watched a video that was talking about black men in dresses. You had people like Terry Crews, Martin Lawrence DeShanene, and I believe Eddie Murphy, and Wesley Snipes was in Two on Fool, and basically, a lot of black men saying, uh, we 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 shouldn't allow black men to wear dresses, and it's never okay. It's 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 making our men seem weak. We need to put on a strong front. Um, and they point out that the masculine white male stars, you don't ever see them in dresses, but you never see Matthew McConaughey or Brad Pitt, or uh, though Brad Pitt did wear a wig for Troy, but he was playing a male character. um, you don't see Leonardo DiCaprio wearing a dress, and it got me to thinking. What they were saying ultimately was that black men wearing dresses is just uh, a method of white supremacy. White people are paying us to wear dresses in order uh, to keep us down. And if black people had their own movie industry, then we wouldn't have to do anything that put us in a bad light, basically. And that got me to thinking. You know, would if black people produced and distributed, and most importantly, if black people patronized their own film, if there was this one, uh, let's say, hypothetically, let's say that white people went extinct, and uh, the blacks had to produce their own movies, and and see their own movies. Let's say that for example. Um, would Are we to assume that every movie produced by a black person, geared towards a black audience, would portray the black male character as being like uh, the president, a diplomat, a scientist, an engineer, a king? I mean, are, are we to assume that a black produced movie for a black audience is gonna make us all some sort of gods? And I just I just read a book about um, America's New Negroes, a book written by Devarian L. Baldwin, and he talked about the the golden age of black cinema, which was around World War One, uh, in the World War One era, you know, 1920 and before. And he talked about a filmmaker named Oscar Micheaux, and this was a black guy during segregation who produced his own films who funded and directed and produced his own films for a black audience because it was segregation, so he couldn't have advertised his movie to white people, so it was just for black people. And I remember I was expecting the movie would his movies would be portraying black men as these superhuman, super masculine, uh, uh, what you would say, righteous. Yeah, righteous is the perfect word. These super righteous, Christian, uh, godly people. I figured that every one of his characters, every one of his black characters at least would be a saint, and maybe the big evil, the bad guy of the movie would be. I figured it might be the white union boss or something like that, But I actually watched Body and Soul, one of Oscar Micheaux's movies. I forgot what year it was produced. I think it was. Let's see. I think it might have been 1929, but I could be wrong. But I watched Body and Soul, and you know that movie was the exact opposite of what I thought it was. What I thought it was gonna be. Basically, in his movie, which was produced for a black audience by produced and directed and funded by a black man, you know, his characters were not saints. The women were not all virgins. Uh, uh, you know, not they were not all virgins until the wedding night. You know, uh, the black guy wasn't the president. And you had black guys who were you had black characters in the film who were uh, addicted to gambling, and he really exposed the hypocrisy of the Christian church, especially black Christian pastors. And you know and this was a movie that was produced uh, exclusively for a black audience. So it couldn't it couldn't have been what YouTubers would call coding for the white man because there was no white audience. So you know, and I haven't seen the movies from the other black filmmakers from the golden age of black cinema, but I'm assuming that it uh, more of them will have uh, a similar uh, a similar storyline, a similar theme, which is that basically the theme of body and soul was that black people are not saints. Uh, black people are human like everybody else, and so it begs the question, if we were to get out of if we were to let's say get off the plantation and uh, stop producing uh, uh, stop accepting roles in white people's films, would all black men in the movies be like what's his name? Uh, Meteor Man. That's the film I'm thinking of. Meteor Man. Would all black characters be Meteor Man? Um, and judging from history, that's not the case. And yeah, I laughed at Shanae. You know, it wasn't really funny to me when Terry Crews put on a dress. It was sort of played out by then. Same with Kevin Hart. It was sort of yeah. I mean, in my opinion, SNL hasn't been funny in years, but in over a decade, but or maybe more than a decade, maybe like 3 decades. But at the same time, I don't really, you know, judge people's uh, preferences for movies. And when you look at movies that are produced for a black audience today, well, sure, sure the black male characters are hyper masculine, you know, to the point of being criminal because that's you know it appeals to the insecurities of black people and the whole the whole line of reasoning that we might not be as rich or as powerful or as accomplished as white men, but we are supposedly more masculine and we don't have any we don't have any nerves basically, and that's the whole that's the whole insecurity that they're tapping into with these movies today that are produced for a black audience. And when I think of those movies for a black audience, I think of Friday, Next Friday, Soul Plane. Uh, those are the only movies I can think of that were produced specifically for a black audience. I Spike Lee is a Spike Lee has mass appeal. Spike Lee is a crossover artist. He didn't a lot of his biggest fans are white people, and same with Lee Daniels and whoever directed 12 Years a Slave, and of course, Django was directed by a white man, so that doesn't count. Uh, but you know, he, you know, in the beginning of black cinema, they saw through the whole black people are angels, and the whole myth that you know there ain't no black sissies or whatever. There's no you know black men are there's no weakness in them, and because it's hard to live up uh, to the illusion of it being this hyper masculine character. And even if you look at all the black men who are in prison today, I mean, you know, you know, they might have killed somebody because he said something about his shoes. He might have been selling drugs so that he could look strong for his family and not look weak by being poor. So I'm not saying that the cure to black recidivism is to put on a dress. What I'm saying is that when when your when your modus operandi is to be hyper aggressive, hyper masculine, you know, you can't back down. You can't show any weakness or show compassion. Or so I think with these actors, they're just trying to soften it up a little bit. Let don't don't make yourself into a brick wall. Uh, and that's all I wanted to say about it. So let me know what you think, and do you think I'm completely wrong? And have a nice day. Bye.